demolished in 57. So this is the house of Oberon. It was found in, Oberon was in Admiral Hill, which is this road off Orchard Road. So it is still there today, the road, but the house is demolished. And this is a layout of 119. Oberon is the name of the house, it's 117. 119 is the house next door. So, but it's identical in plan. Maria and I have tried to track the original 117. Sadly, it doesn't exist. But this is the identical one next door. And there's actually a love story between the two because someone from Stella Kong's family, her aunt actually married someone, married the boy next door, literally, who stayed in 119. And this is the space that we're actually recreating with its giant two central columns. So to Stella Kong, she said as she wrote, she imagined Emily walking around this space that is actually quite like her old home. So in terms of architectural elements, we see this house in Admiral Hill come alive. So you see how the space is therefore a mix of fact and fiction. Okay, for example, for Stella Kong, she said something that is in this space but never really existed in her house is the mother of pearl chairs. Okay, she said that in her house, she called themselves, we are the westernized like Peranakans in the early 20th century. So her mother, her grandmother spoke Baba Malay, but she herself didn't speak Baba Malay. And the furniture in the house by the 50s were more westernized. But she said, oh Jackie, we have to borrow, from the Peranakan Museum, this mother of pearl chairs to show because these are classically Peranakan, according to her. So she always imagined her Emily on these chairs. So that's the fictional part. But in terms of reality, she said that, Emily was walking in Oberon, and this house actually has flora tiles. And I asked her, which flora tiles are you talking about? Do you have a sample for me to see? And thankfully there was a photograph left from family member, and we could trace actually from a book that was recently published about Singapore shop houses. We found the exact tile that was in Oberon, and we reproduced it now, the exact tile. So she was very emotional last week when she came, and she said these are like Oberon's tiles. And on the marble tiles on the floor were also recreated with her. She said that's the kind of floor that she grew up with, as well as the lights. We actually have to ask Stella to lend these two lights that are in her house. They were hanging in Oberon, 12 of them. She managed to save 2 when the house was demolished. So it evokes, of course, particular ambience of Oberon. In each section, it continues, I guess. I'll point out to you the key objects that show this blend of fact and fiction and how certain things are actually referenced in the play. So in this third of the exhibition, of course, the key highlight that we see is this cupboard from Oberon. All the descendants Stella Kong has kindly given me a few contacts. I called a few of her relatives who stayed in the house, and they said that everybody, when you walk into the sitting room, this is a sitting room, you always see the cupboard first. And in it, the family stacked different kinds of export Chinese porcelain. And we have managed to trace different members of the family to get back porcelain to display for you to see that it's really originally from Stella Kong's family. So what is so special about Stella Kong's family, as we'll get to in a bit, Stella Kong is descended from 2 very famous Singaporeans who are also Peranakans. On the father's side, she's descended from Lim Boon Keng, who is who's well remembered in Singapore history as she's the first Queen scholar, and he's contributed to various social reforms in Singapore. And on her mother's side, she's descended from Tan Tock Seng, who is of course very well known for the hospital, and also for being the largest donor to Thian Hock Keng, which is the first Chinese temple in Singapore. So she's descended from these 2 very famous families, and these porcelain actually therefore come from a prominent family in Singapore. So if we walk further, we will meet the inspiration for the character Emily. So maybe if we ask people today, who is Emily to you? People might say Ivan Heng, Margaret Chan, different actors or actresses who have portrayed her. But when you ask Stella Kong, who is Emily? She will immediately say, oh, she was based on my grandmother, Mrs. Xiao Po Ling, ni Polly Tan Po Li. So Polly Tan, the maiden name, Tan from Tan Tock Seng. So Mrs. Xiao Po Ling, Polly Tan. This is her sarong kebaya. It's the last one left that we could dig out from the family. And she's a bit short. Some people say, shouldn't she be higher to represent a more imposing Emily? And we said, no, because we asked Stella Con how tall your Emily was, in your mind. And she said she should be about my grandmother's height, which is around this. And she wants to say that Emily of Emerhill is based on people and characters in her life, but it is not a direct copy. So her grandmother's son did not commit suicide, as Emily's son did. So it's just based on her character, which is very strong, and the way that she runs the household and things like that. So right behind, I think, is one of the top 10 highlights you have in your fact sheet, and I would believe actually it's such a magnificent object. We have negotiated a long-term loan with the family member. It's a very important object. What you're seeing, this very magnificent cup, it's actually worn by one of Stella Con's ancestor, Tan Buliet. He won this cup, or rather his horse Vanitas won this cup in 1898. And this cup is actually referenced in the Emily play. Emily talks about the father-in-law loving horses and the horse winning a cup. So it's actually this cup she had in her mind. This cup is very remarkable because even in 1898, when his horse won this cup in India, it was reported all over in the Singapore papers because people were very excited. It was the first time that a horse owned by a non-white person actually won the race in India. So it's actually inscribed, the victory is actually inscribed on the cup, like Tan Buliet Vanitas won the Viceroy Cup, and it's made by a well-known silversmith in Calcutta. So after that, you can find it in Singapore newspapers how people tried to buy his cup, his horse, and these are all reported in the press. So further, other important people. Okay, that's a portrait of Tan Buliet, the man whose horse won the cup, and he is the direct character inspiration for Emily's father-in-law in the play. So he was Stella Con mentioned that he was thinking about him when he wrote this character into the play. And next to him is a family portrait. That's Mrs. Xiao Po Ling behind. So the woman whose sarong kebaya you're looking at, the character inspiration, that's Mr. Xiao Po Ling. That's their children, Rosie Xiao, mother of Stella Con, and the brother, Xiao Eugene. So these are, of course, this is not just one family, but they have interesting connections to Singapore history. Mr. Xiao Po Ling is a prominent banker in the early 20th century. He was one of the founders of the Ho Hong Bank, and this bank later merged with other big banks in Singapore to become our current OCBC bank. And but he had a pastime. His favorite pastime was acting. He was an amateur actor. He invited people to his house and they had dramatic readings and things like that. And these are also remembered by Stella Con, who said that the grandfather, the father and the mother inspired her early passion for theatre. Her mother, Rosie Xiao, was actually received professional training at the Royal Dramatic School of Arts in London, and she remembered as a child following her mother for all these practices. So that's Rosie. And her uncle, Xiao Eugene, is remembered in Singapore history as one of Singapore's most prominent architects. So people in the architecture world know of Professor Xiao Eugene, who was once the head of the architecture department at the University of Singapore. So that's the family portrait. Behind that is what the family members call the grandmother's clock. They say it's not the grandfather's clock because it's actually a gift from the children to the grandmother on her 50th birthday. So 3 things they always remember in the house: a giant cupboard, a cup, and a clock. So we managed to trace that from the family. In front is, according to Stella, she said, you must put a telephone, but I don't have my telephone anymore from Oberon. So we lent her a phone from the 50s in the museum collection. And of course, the telephone has this very strong symbolic meaning in the play. It is through this calling of different people. Every time she calls different people, she has different accents. She switches her accents and her registers according to who she talks to. And this has been so heavily referenced in critical literature on this play about how she therefore projects this real Singaporean voice. And of course, Stella is quick to add that her telephone number was 5 digits. In 1950s, it was 33383. So it's a bit, I guess, therefore, in this space, again, you see this meeting of fact and fantasy in a sense. So it became a while, I sometimes have to stop Stella and I said, you know, Stella, I asked you to recreate Emily's house and not your own house. And she said, yes, but sometimes it's a bit difficult. She said to tell where fact starts and fiction begins. So it became therefore to her what she calls a very a strong exercise of nostalgia in that sense, to create this part of old Singapore. So leaving Stella's world of Emily and what Emily represents to her, Maria will tell you more about what Emily has meant to many important directors and actors in Singapore and Malaysia theatre industry.
So I think while Emily is a very well-known script, it is well known, I think, primarily as a play that is performed. Just a few fun facts for you. It is Singapore's most staged play, having been performed over 300 times, over 50 production runs, been performed, and it's a very international play. It's been performed across 4 continents, 7 countries, 17 cities, and at 7 festivals, both locally and internationally as well. So this is a very, very well regarded play in the world of theatre. So because of that, we felt that it was very important in this museum's exhibition to honour the performance aspect of it. And it is in this section that we are entitling Performing Emily, in which we try to tease that out. So if you just come with me this way, the concept of this space is one of a stage and a dressing room. It's in front and behind the scenes. You will notice that in this exhibition, design has played quite a key role in narrating and creating the atmosphere of different sections and different concepts and ideas that we're trying to put across for the show. So right now, in the show, there have been 8 professional people who have acted as Emily, but we are focusing on 3 in particular, though also acknowledging the others who have contributed as well. So the first of the 3 that we are highlighting in the show is Margaret Chan. Now, Margaret Chan holds the distinction of being the very first Singaporean to ever play it, and it is here in 1985 at the drama festival that she debuted it to Singaporean audiences, and it was extremely well received, and it almost sold out every night. Because of its fantastic reception, the next year it was invited twice to Edinburgh to international festivals. The first time a Singaporean play has ever been invited to an international festival. First of which being the Commonwealth Arts Festival. Y'all can come closer, by the way. Yeah. The very first of which is the Commonwealth Arts Festival, and behind you, very obviously, is the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. For her first performances of Emily, she was directed by Dr. Max Leblond, who's photographed over here, and in 1986 he also was Cultural Medallion winner. Some say in part because of his work with Emily.